Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Kansas City Oasis. My name is Mark, and I'll be your MC today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in our community center and those joining on Facebook Live to the Kansas City Oasis. Since 2014, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based community. We welcome all, regardless of beliefs or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when it is shared, and we are so pleased to have you all here. Oasis gathers around our 5 core values. They are: people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, human hands solve human problems, meaning comes from making a difference, be accepting and be accepted. You can find out more at www.kcoasis.org/ourphilosophy.
Thank you, sorry.
Oh. Sorry about that. Today's program, our featured speakers are Jessica Rockhold and Dr. Shelly Cline on manipulating the people, Nazi propaganda, and the importance of media literacy. Ooh, a little light topic for the dreary day. Our musical guest is David Luther. Our community moment is Al Ortega. Oh, and now it's time for our first round of music from David Luther. David has worked full-time in social work for 15 years, with the last 5 working in foster care and adoption. During that time, David recorded his first self-titled EP in Nashville. What's an EP? Okay. A what? Oh, it's a record. I thought that was an LP. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. David is a full-time artist whose current influences include Jason Isabel, Brandy Carly, Ryan Adams, and many others. You can find him at thedavidluther.com and on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and YouTube at the David Luther. You can also Venmo him. That's the most important one right there. At David Luther, the David Luther, sorry. And welcome. It's all yours.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. I really like coming here. It's the second time for me. I'll tell you, I had to ask several people the difference between an EP and an LP because it never made sense to me. I say, well, if it's extended play, why is it shorter? But I finally have an answer that I think I can live with, which is that an EP is 6 songs or less, and an LP is 7 songs or more. And a full-length album is 10 songs, I guess. So, but of course, this is all subjective, right? As long as your heart's in it, I think you can call it whatever you want. Well, that's not true either. Well, here's a song from my new album that I just finished recording in Nashville with Nielsen and some wonderful people from around here as well. It's called Smile About Something. Seems like everybody's running or just trying to get away. Feels like everyone's talking with nothing to say. Some are dancing in the bright lights, others dying in the dark. Everybody wants to go, we just don't want to start. Oh, but stay here a while, and I'll make you smile about something. Stay here a while, and I'll make you smile. Faith is flying down a freeway, mercy's holding to the end, and fear is trembling in the cheap seats, trying not to sin. God is hanging in the ghettos, devil's waiting for his turn. We're all drinking down freedom and chasing the burn. Oh, stay here a while, and I'll make you smile about something. Stay here a while, and I'll make you smile. Oh, stay here a while and take your time. I'll give you all mine to make you smile about something, smile about something, smile about something, smile about something. Stay here a while, and I'll make you smile about something. Stay here a while, and I'll make you smile about something. Stay here a while, and I'll make you smile. Thank you. Well, smiling often can come from finding common ground, which thankfully there's a lot more of that available than we can realize sometimes. But it's the way, to help each other and lift each other up. And so this is a song from that I just recorded as well. It's from quite a while ago, and from a pretty hard time in life for me. And but it's those times that help to be able to understand what somebody might be going through and offer some type of kindness and have it receivable, I guess. It's called "You Were Like Me." Gather string, forget the nails, split the logs and tie them tightly to the sails. Lay her down in the shallow waves, fill it full of things that need to drift away, and cut it loose, cut it loose. Put your hat on, kiss the grave. Know that everything returns to where it's made. Strap the leather up around your boots, so your ankles don't bend and turn you loose. And on your way, on your way. I was once like you are now. You were rolling in the deep, drinking just to get to sleep. You were like me. And I was once like you are too, always thinking something new was bound to find me. You were like me. Katie Rose, foolish dream. The childish mind will fill the heart with childish things. All your laboring and nothing safe, while your vision is slowly stripped away until it's gone, long gone. Black and white never meant to stay. Your new religion is color safe. All that matters is flesh and bone. Skin is rubber tightly wrapped around your soul and your name. Your name. You were once like I am now. You were rolling in the deep, drinking just to get to sleep. You were like me. I was once like you are too, always thinking something new was bound to find me. You were like me. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, David. Don't forget, everybody, show him some love at the Venmo there. The Venmo. Before we get into our celebrations, we wanted to pause and remember the anniversary of the passing of a community member. Rajesh has been a member of Kansas City Oasis community since it started in 2014. His musical talents, enthusiastic hugs, and so much more are greatly missed. So, just wanted to remember Rajesh. Today we have some birthdays. We have Cheryl DeRang. Today is also Tim Eshelman. October 5th is Jimmy Otten. October 8th, Lindsay Doolittle. And October 8th, Twyla Dell. Are these last month's birthdays? Anybody have a birthday that's in November? Okay. Okay. Well, if you're a November birthday, we'll get you next week, I guess. Happy birthday, everyone. Oh, this evening, we have a very exciting thing coming up. We've come out and you can have some food and drinks with Sam McGuire. He's the National Field Director of the American Atheists. Oh. She. Okay. They. Atheist is going to be in town. Come and hear what exciting new projects American Atheist is working on, learn about local advocacy initiatives, and meet the folks from other local groups, including KC Atheist Coalition, Kansas City Oasis, Camp Quest KC, and the Unsainted. And this will be at the KC Hooley House, which is down in the Power and Light District. Was there a question? Hooley House. It's new, fairly new, I believe. Oh. I'm getting all the happy stuff here. So you can spend Tuesday evening with friends as we watch the election results. Feel free to bring snacks to share and your drink of choice. Kansas City Oasis does not support any specific political party. Candidate. It starts at 7 after our local polls close. So, and I guess this will be a good time to remind everybody to go out and vote. Unless you're voting something that I don't like, then don't bother. Oh, just a reminder that there is free parking garage 2 blocks to the west. Next Sunday, we're expecting a big crowd, so you might want to consider parking there if you are able to walk the 2 blocks. Speaking of next Sunday, atheist activist, historical researcher, writer, and international public speaker David Fitzgerald will be here from California sharing a recent scholarly findings in the field of global religious history. Amy Vanderdrift is here from Europe and will share memories of her mother, M.K. Mustard, and one of our favorite, Ernest James Zydeco Trio, will provide the music. This will be a longer program than we normally have, so it's going to be extended until 1 p.m. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand for a question. Oh, next Saturday, Darrell Ray is hosting an opportunity to interact with David Fitzgerald before his talk on Sunday. This is a fundraiser to help defray the cost of bringing David to speak at Oasis. A $10 or more donation is requested. Chili will be provided. Feel free to bring any side dishes, snacks, drinks, or wine. Come and go as you like from 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. RSVP in the Oasis private group, and you'll receive the address. Monday, November 25th, you can join us for the monthly Musical Mondays. Watch and sing along to our favorite musicals. Bring your own food and drink and comfy seating. We will start at the movie at 6 p.m. This month is Little Shop of Horrors. If you'd like to keep up to date on all this stuff, you can join the Kansas City Oasis page and sign up to receive our weekly email newsletter. And now, that brings us to our community moment. Community moments are an opportunity for a member of our community to present on a topic of their choice during a Sunday gathering. Today, we will hear from Al Ortega. 3 words that describe him are curious, irreverent, energy efficient, lazy, and his warning label is rated R for language. Come on up, Al.
I will try to keep it PG-13, but if I don't, my bad. So there is a bit of a, I gotta click the button, don't I? That's on me. Oh, there we go. Bit of a disclaimer. One, I'm recovering a little bit from bronchitis from last week, so if my voice sounds off and it's like out of breath, it's because, well, my voice sounds off and I'm out of breath. This is sort of tips for a healthy 25. I used to be a personal trainer. I did it for a lot of years. So this is just encouragement that I used to give to some of the clients that I used to have. And also it was just tips and tricks that I thought were more common knowledge that really aren't. And so I thought, well, I'm sure I'm with you. And if it turns out they are common knowledge and you already know, well, then, you have more coffee or whatever. It's all good. So like I said, as a personal trainer, I had a number of different clients. One of them, make sure I'm on the right side here, Nicole, she used to run marathons. And she had a 2-year-old turning 3 and just having difficulty lifting and holding her child, because marathon runners, if you've ever seen them, tend to be very, very thin. So she wanted to sort of get stronger. So that was sort of her motivation for doing it. And if you're going to make any sort of change, like physical fitness wise, you have to have some kind of a motivation. So for her, it was just be able to hold her child. Kurt and Liz were a couple that I worked with. They were getting ready to get married. And so for her, she just wanted to look her best on wedding day, and she wanted her soon-to-be husband to sort of do the same. But he hated the gym, and he had good reason. Since junior high school all the way up, he wasn't the most athletic kid, so he didn't get picked for the teams and got made fun of, and all the things that tend to happen a lot when you're younger. And so it pretty much turned him off completely to anything related to the gym. So she told me when we were starting, please don't go all personal trainer yelling and all that kind of stuff. It will turn him off, and you'll never see him here again. So instead what I did is I designed a curriculum in which when they would do things like step on a bench and step up, they would only do it with one dumbbell so they could use the other to hold hands. Good dopamine, ways that they can enjoy each other. When they were doing push-ups, I would have them sort of face each other and then do occasional high fives. So by making it something he enjoyed, by making it something he looked forward to, it really changed his perspective a lot, and it made it something where instead of being a miserable experience, it was something that he like I said, he got a lot out of. Benefits of doing it, because if you're going to have a reason, like I said, some sort of benefits usually come in handy. Benefits of quality sleep, which is something that I struggle with. I have sleep apnea, sleep anxiety disorder. I don't sleep well at all. It sucks. But for people who do, I am so jealous, and I wish I could be one of you. But I know that it does enhance your motor skills and reaction times. Improved memory and learning consolidation. So the things that your short-term memory, like during the day, and when you're learning new things, when you're sleeping at night and your brain continues to do all of its little magic processing, obviously the better your quality of your sleep is, the more it's going to be able to do that more efficiently. It's a mood booster and stress reduction. If you wake up after a good night of sleep, you generally feel better. If you wake up after a good nap, you generally feel better. If you wake up and you're miserable, then it's probably not going to be a great night of sleep, and it's probably going to be a bad day, right? You're going to have to be more aware of what's going on there. Heart health, cardiovascular health is huge on it, and as I get more and more gray hairs, I enter into my 50s, I got to be more cognizant of those sort of things there. And immune system functioning. Like I said, I was out last Sunday, done. I could not function. I could barely get out of bed with bronchitis. I slept all day, slept all night. By Monday, I was better, a lot better. And if you're trying to keep up and not sleep well, it's definitely going to impact you on those kind of things. Benefits of good mental health. One thing I really like with the younger generation is they are very concerned about like anxiety and stress and things like that, and actually taking action on it instead of bottling up like we did. So kudos to them. But with that better mental health, you get more of a sense of contentment. You're better able to deal with stress and adapt to change. That person at work that as soon as you see, you automatically go, better mental health means you get to cope with them a little bit better, right? It's better ability to maintain relationships. I'm going to go to Florida here in a couple of days. I'm going to go visit with family. They are all going to be voting differently. I'll just say that. So, so this is going to be a bit of a stressful time for all of us because it's going to be right after the election. So somebody's going to be very happy and somebody's not. And it's going to be during a wedding, which is going to be even more stressful. So it's going to be a great time. So yeah, good mental health, definitely going to be needed. Improve self-confidence and self-esteem, the way that you see yourself and the way that you believe in the things that you can do. And you just get to enjoy life more because you don't deal with as much of the anxiety and the stress and all those sort of things there. I put muscular and bone strength instead of just physical because a lot of times people think of, if you go to the gym or you're running, it's all about muscles. But that's not really the only truth to it. It's certainly true. But also your bones, when you're doing exercises, your bones get stronger. And as we get older, osteoporosis, fragile bones, a lot of times that's not caused by simply aging, it's caused by atrophy. We're just not really exercising and working those things out. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. Improved balance and coordination, the help, I fallen and I can't get up. I'll bet you if she falls, she can get back up, right? So it's a lot better for that, better posture. Increased independence, right? They're building a huge senior citizen community center right next to where I live. I can't really say that too much anymore because it's 55 and up and I'm like right there. But that ability to live independent and on your own and have less requirements on other people, that's a huge part of that. Again, improved quality of life and improved metabolism. And as you get older, it lowers your healthcare cost. And not just as you get older, there were some studies, I was doing this from Johns Hopkins University and NIH, that on average, healthier people spend about $2,500 a year less than unhealthy people, and that survey started at the age of 18. So again, this is not people in their 50s and 60s and 70s older, this is even young people, any adult, it helps. And also by reversing, a lifestyle-related type of things such as type 2 diabetes and that stuff there. So is there any way that you can get better sleep, better mental health, better muscular and bone strength, and lower potential future medical costs? Yeah, the little emoji guy kind of gives part of it away at least. Doing various types of exercise. What kind of exercise? Well, whatever you enjoy. You like pickleball? Play pickleball. You like going running? Go run. You like going to the gym? Great. You want to go play tennis? Fantastic. If you enjoy it, you're more likely to do it. So there's no one requirement of this is the kind of things that you should do. These are just different kinds of exercises. There's the first two, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic means that you're pretty much using oxygen as your energy source. Anaerobic means you're not. That's the main difference. So an exercise that's very short in duration, like lifting some kind of a weight, is going to be an anaerobic exercise. Sprinting, it's only about 10 or 11 seconds. That's going to be an anaerobic exercise. When you're running long distance, that's going to be more of an aerobic exercise. So they're not specific types, they're just sort of classifications in there. Resistance training with bands, with weights, with any of those kind of things. You can do combinations of different things there, flexibility, plyometrics, mind-body, tai chi, yoga, that kind of stuff. There's also a lot of benefits, not only for you, but for maybe people that you're with. This will be a little bit more on the R-rated side, but I'll keep it not too bad. China did some surveys regarding sex, and specifically men getting to the finish line maybe a little sooner than they wanted to. And so one of the things that they noticed is that if you do yoga and you do tai chi and you do these kind of things, it can improve your mind-body coordination to have a little better control, but it takes about 2 years to get there. If you do running and going to the gym, it takes about 4 to 6 months to get there. And if you do HIIT training 7 minutes a day for 2 weeks, you can get there. So not only does it benefit you, it might benefit somebody that you love. Some tips if you're not doing it or if you're starting and transitioning over: start slow and listen to your body. I think most people have heard of like tennis elbow and things like that. So if you get that, stop. Take a break, do something else. Be consistent. If you're not somebody who goes out to gym or you're starting to run regularly, probably don't want to put a marathon on your chart for next week. Slow it down a little bit, be consistent, a couple of days a week, and kind of build up to things like that. Hydrate, learn to use proper form, and that's not just with gym and big weights. If you're going to go running and you don't run correctly, it's a great way to damage your knees. I know, it's been 8 years in the Marine Corps, and I have no knees left, right? They suck. So learn proper forms and techniques that helps avoid injury and allows you to do the thing that you're really trying to do with it, which is to get a little bit healthier, that sort of self-care with it. Some people like having a workout buddy, somebody to encourage them and have some sort of accountability with it. That's always fantastic to be able to do. Again, be patient and set realistic goals. I know that's probably a very difficult chart to read, but it's a chart from when I used to be a personal trainer. We would do like tests on people at the beginning and throughout their training cycles to sort of see where they were at. And so based on the age group that you were in, this particular one was for running, and how far you should be able to run in a 12-minute period. Run, walk, whatever you got to do. 12 minutes, how far can you go? If you're at the bottom of that somewhere for your age group, to think you're going to get all the way up to the top and excellent in like 2 weeks, probably not going to happen, right? Be patient, take some time, set some realistic goals for that. Part of it is fueling yourself, right? So it's the bad D word. I know nobody likes it, but what I will tell you is anything that you're eating, keep doing it. There's nothing that you should take off of your menu. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied, so the portion may change, but otherwise just eat whatever it is you want to. Don't skip meals. Skipping meals is one of those things that people think is a good idea. It's really not. All you do is you end up snacking more and you eat more in the next meal, and you don't get any benefits from it. Don't skip meals. Choose nutrient-dense food, so add these things to your plate. Don't take other things off of it necessarily. Limit processed foods. Again, hydrate, stay water, the portion sizes, and again, don't restrict foods. There's really nothing that you need to take off your plate. On Monday nights, we go out to Micah sometimes after you go and eat, or after here if we go out to different restaurants. I'm going to eat pizza. I'm going to eat wings. I love hamburgers. I love beer. I love rum and Coke, and I'm really not going to give them up because those are quality of life things for me. So I'm going to continue to enjoy those things. There we go. And the last part is just any kind of resolution that you want to do, any kind you want to make sort of a change on it. They always tell people, oh, you should set SMART goals. In and of themselves, those are okay, but in and of themselves, they're also inefficient. Or deficient, I should say, right? I can say, well, I'm going to learn to play guitar by the end of next year and be able to play 4 songs. That is a very smart goal, right? It's specific, measurable, blah, 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 all that stuff. But I'm not going to do it. Now, how would I know that I'm not going to do it? And how would I know that I've sort of failed halfway through? Well, that's what a leading measure is. So a leading measure would be, I'm going to take 2 guitar lessons per week, and I'm going to practice for a minimum of 3 hours as I divide the day. Now, if I say I'm going to do that every week, and I do that every week, then guess what happens by the end of next year? I've learned how to play guitar, right? So the goal is one thing, but then how do you actually get there? So that's one of the things for good resolution keeping, is to make sure you've got some sort of leading measures along the way. And of course, the second bullet would be to track the progress. Make sure you're actually doing those things, and then you'll have far more success by doing that. Leverage family and friends, just like with the buddy program thing at the gym, if that's your thing. Talk to other people about what it is you're trying to do, not just at midnight when you're drunk on New Year's Eve, but also like other times after, if you remember the resolution and what you want to do, then, having other people that can ask you about it and encourage you on your journey for whatever it is you want to do. You want to quit smoking, you want to do this, or whatever it is. It's a lot more, you have a much greater chance of success if other people are on board with you. Also, prepare for obstacles and make it easier on yourself. If you're somebody who wants to quit smoking, for example, when you go to the store, don't buy cigarettes. I know that sounds really simple, but it means that when you're at home, if you don't have them, every time you get that urge, it's a lot easier to say no because you don't have them there. If you buy the cigarettes because you're gonna wean it down, you have them there, you're fighting that temptation all the time. So make it easier on yourself. Prepare for all those obstacles and then kind of try to plan around them. Focus on the why. Like I said, with Nicole at the beginning, it was her child. With Kurt and Liz, it was their marriage that they were getting ready to do. I saw a video on YouTube, it was really cool. It was this, and the race in this case actually doesn't matter. It was a white guy who was dating a Korean woman. And her family did not speak any Korean or any English. And her father was not a big fan of him because, well, he wasn't Korean. He spent 13 months without telling her and without telling their family, learning how to speak Korean. And then he had a party where he was going to propose and wanted to get the father's blessing, but wanted to do it in Korean. So had the announcement, stood up and started speaking in Korean, apologizing for how his Korean wasn't probably the best, but also the mother, the father, everyone who was around was blown away by his dedication. Because clearly, if he spent 13 months learning how to speak a very difficult language, he loved this woman. And so, if you know what your why is, that'll keep you pretty much motivated through just about anything. And yeah, there's going to be some setbacks. There's going to be some obstacles. So what? That's okay. Dust yourself off. Keep on going. Change whatever you need to. But don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up, and don't quit. Keep going. We can all continue to pursue those goals and whatever they are. And like I said, so that was kind of my thing there. So I just wanted to share some tips from our personal trainer dude. Oh, I should probably go back there. This way he can handle that part. But anyway, just thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. A lot of good advice for 2025. Now, me, if I'd learned Korean, I wouldn't have told him, and I would just listen to him forever and just, gotta think smart. I guess it's time for our coffee break, right? Time for our coffee break. Meet somebody new. During the coffee break, be sure to introduce yourself to someone you don't know. Also, be sure to see the TV above the center doors. It'll have the time and some other stuff. Hope you all had a chance to meet somebody new and, what? Cannot hear you. Okay. So, we do have some more birthdays. So it's the same people, just with different dates. Do I need to read them all? Okay. Because I don't want to hesitate before I say their names. You know. Okay. Oh, I guess we're going to welcome David back, right? David, welcome back. For all you Luddites that don't do Venmos and things, there's a old-fashioned bucket here that says tips on it. So feel free to throw some cash his way. Welcome back.
Thank you. And one thing that it's been hard for my focus during this time is, having so many loved ones that feel so strongly and so differently from me. Realizing that there's been so many times in my life when I've felt or thought a different way, and when I learned something or had an experience that changed, that enlightened me. The worst thing that I could experience was a jeering and told you so type of thing. And I think in my heart that the way that I feel is that there's nothing more important than to be ready to open my arms to somebody who's gone through something and who's going through a period of time where they're learning something. And when that's happened for me, when I've come to grips with something that I have been fighting, and someone's been there to say, look, dude, I get it, and, love you. Or like with my kids, watching them learn something and fight tooth and nail, and then have some type of a experience where they get it. To be in a place of ridicule or judgment of that, which even can be really hard, especially when they've been so difficult. It doesn't help. It seems to push them further away, and I'm so grateful for the times when I've learned something and found compassion for the time when I didn't have that. And this song is I guess it's just a song of compassion. So. It was to Abraham a promised star, then like shooting stars I watched his children fall. Tried so many times to draw you near to me, but it was the great deceiver you chose to believe. You would only know my heart. You could ask for anything. If you would only know my heart, have no need of anything In the wilderness, I watched you run. Even when the water poured out from a stone, I watched you gather bread. Oh, how I wanted to gather you, but you would not believe, you would not. You cried out for a king, and I was torn apart. If only you'd have seen the way it broke my heart. Maybe it was then that I finally knew I'd have to be a man just to be close to you. If you would only know my heart, you could ask for anything. If you would only know my heart, I've no need of anything. Into Bethlehem, my salvation came. In the story born of heaven, oh, the glory born of heaven, I poured out like rain. Prophets long ago told my story well. Like a lamb led to slaughter, I did not cry or flare. My love for all of you, they could not purge from me. Through the scourging and the nails, I saw you running free. You would only know my heart, you could ask for anything. If you would only know my heart, have no need of anything. Thanks for letting me play that.
Thanks again, David. That was lovely. I think we all could use a little more compassion at this time. That brings us to our main speaker. Our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by Kansas City Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, a question and answer period will follow. Our speaker today is Jessica Rockhold and Dr. Shelly Cline on manipulating the people, Nazi propaganda, and the importance of media literacy. Jessica Rockhold has spent 17 years running MCHE's education program, and that stands for Midwest Center for Holocaust Education programs, and was the director of education before being named MCHE's executive director in January of 2020. Dr. Shelly Cline joined the MCHE team in 2015 and is the historian and director of education. She is an instructor in the Jewish Studies program at the University of Kansas. Welcome, you're up.
Thank you, everybody, and good morning. This is our second time at KC Oasis, and we're so pleased to be here. It's in both cases been a remarkable and uplifting program, and so we're really gratified. As Mark said, we come with heavy information, so we're gratified that you're willing to engage these kinds of topics and take this in an in-depth way, so thank you for that. MCAG's mission is to teach the history of the Holocaust, but to do that in service of applying those lessons from the Holocaust to our world today. It's not enough for this to be history that happened 80 years ago. It needs to be something that applies and is relevant to our lives today. And so as we think about the different programs that we do, this is among the most pressing and one that we're doing a lot. So what we want to do for you today is engage you in the history of Nazi propaganda. And my suspicion, most people have some concept of the anti-Jewish propaganda that was perpetrated in the 30s, especially in Nazi Germany. But the Nazis actually are a party that formed immediately after World War I. Hitler was their first party propagandist and was a bit of a propaganda genius. He laid out principles for this party to follow that were then picked up by the likes of Joseph Goebbels and really still pervade our system of marketing. And the Nazis cut their teeth in electioneering. And so today what we want to do is show you some of that early work. And our hope is that we are equipping you to be able to see propaganda techniques, right? We want red flags to wave for you when you open up social media and see something that is stated too simply, or that is a slogan repeated over and over. We want to equip you to raise those questions, because what we live in now is a media environment where it's almost impossible to keep up. When I think about what my daughter is faced with every day in an onslaught of information, and how do you even begin to track those sources? How do you question those things? The first step is understanding some of this basic premise that Dr. Cline's going to outline for you.
Thank you, Jessica. As she mentioned, when we think about Nazi propaganda, it is usually the really negative stuff, right? That exclusionary propaganda, that's what has made it through mostly to our time today. So I wanted to open us here with a few images, these are from the early period, from 34 through 38. And if you look at these images, I think it might surprise you that you don't feel darkly, right? Now, we know the end of the story, so we know the dark side of this. But if you look at these images, there's bright colors, they maybe even seem hopeful, and so that's the other piece of it. There's always an emotion involved in propaganda. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's hope and uplift. So we'll go through some of these later. Just a few of these techniques to keep in mind. It's always going to evoke a strong emotion, be that anger, fear, hope. That's going to be present. And the simplicity of the message is really key. That's something that Hitler was adamant about even when he writes about it in Mein Kampf. He wants that message to be simple, and we see this in our propaganda today. It's a simple message, so we have to be aware of that. And then look where the attack is as well. Again, just some details on propaganda and how it's not concerned with truth. There may be a kernel of truth in it. I think we see this all the time in our world, and why it's really important to get to a deeper understanding, to really trace those sources. And I think this last point is the most important. To be successful, propaganda taps into our deepest values, fears, hopes, and dreams. There's something very visceral about what it taps into. And I think, as Jessica mentioned, when we are consuming media in our own world, catch yourself. How does it make you feel? Are you too strongly agreeing with it? Why?
I think it's important to note here that the Nazis specifically spoke about rationality not being the point of propaganda, that they were not speaking to the scientific process or to depth and context. They specifically said, this isn't rationality, it's emotion.
And as we also know, emotion is key in fascism in general. It does appeal to emotion, not reason. So before we take you through some of the electioneering posters of 1932, I thought it would be useful to briefly mention that before they get to the period of running for office, where they will use a lot of manipulation tactics, they do lay out exactly what they want to do. Their plan for Germany is called the 25 points, and they proposed that in 1920. And so they're very clear about what the party platform is. So here's a few. There's 25 of them, but I just picked a few. A lot of them deal with anti-immigration policy, having a Germany entirely based on race, getting rid of foreigners, not allowing immigration into Germany, controlling the press. They will say they want to get rid of foreign control of the press, but what this amounts to is getting rid of a free press. And then finally, having a strong authoritarian government in Germany to execute some of these other points. If you read all of the 25 points, you'll see that while these stand out to us, because we know that they did accomplish a lot of these, there's also things that would have been more positive in there as well. Expanding education, expanding old age pensions, things like that. So they're of the 25, there are things that an average voter might look at and think, oh, well, that appeals to me. Like, I can stomach this other stuff because this is good for me. But again, this was very clearly laid out, and this is, in fact, many of the things that they put into practice. So if we look at Mein Kampf on propaganda, so 25 points happens in 1920. That's ahead of Hitler's failed attempt to take power in 1923, right? He has this failed, violent coup on the government. That doesn't go well. He goes to prison, gets out of, well, while in prison, he will write his political biography, Mein Kampf. And in it, he will lay out his, further plans and also talk about propaganda. And it's in this work that he does speak to it being a simple message, that you should use bright colors, that you're speaking, to the masses, not to necessarily intellectuals. And it's from this propaganda that you'll, in fact, get followers.
I think the thing that I would add is that he speaks a lot about war propaganda, not exclusively, but a lot about war propaganda. And that as Hitler moves from the propagandist of the party to the leader of the party, and then other propagandists come in, they start to refine this messaging and these techniques. And so what we see in the late 1920s, even 1930, so before they're in power, are publications outlining for the party, how do we speak to people? They talk about methods. They don't have a lot of money. They're a small party, so verbal communication, right? Some of the most important things they can do is stand in front of people and speak. What is the power of a poster? And how do we visually construct that poster? It's incredibly specific, and it is modern marketing.
And it is very effective. So if we'll look, quickly at some of the electioneering posters from 1932. 1932 was a big year of elections. So the Weimar Republic is really struggling. It had a brief period of flourishing in the late 20s, then the American stock market crashes. That sends Germany into a tailspin as well. And we start to see the grand coalition that had been holding Germany together in their government fall apart. And so there's a series of elections throughout the 31 and 32. And in 32, we'll see a general election for the Reichstag in July and in November, and we'll see a presidential election in March and a runoff election in April. So there's a great deal of targeting the voters in this period. So all the posters I'm going to show you are from that period. They were also very good at specifically targeting, using different messages for different groups. So here you see them appealing to the voters that are workers. Both workers in terms of like miners and workers like work with the hand, but also if you see that second image, it's appealing to workers of the mind. So whether you have an office job or you have a labor job, this says that workers are voting for Hitler. You also might notice that there are no swastikas in these images, right? So there's kind of they look different than what we are used to. Again, we have one appealing to farmers, and the slogans work, freedom, and bread, right? How positive, right? There's nothing dark about that. Just saying we're going to put people back to work. We're going to give you food to feed your families. Now, if we look at the second image, that is a bit more exclusionary. This speaks to that very much in-group, out-group, which we'll see them very much develop once they're in power. And you can even see in this imagery the contrast in bodies, right? That's something that they'll simplify as well. But we have the strong Aryan and the swastika is going to be, building industry, and then the dangerous Jews and Soviets that are harmful there in the corner. Again, freedom and bread. And I like these two images kind of as a contrast, because we have the swastika as the sun, right? How, hopeful a new tomorrow where there'll be freedom and there'll be bread. Contrast that with what the reality is. Our last hope is Hitler. So without Hitler, you have people unemployed. You see a woman with a baby. Almost all of the Nazi propaganda will show a woman with a child, because that's so, women and motherhood is so essential to this future view of a racial state that they have.
I think it's also important in this period to note that it was during the Depression and that they are keen to show a declined civilization and that they are the solution for that.
Which is why we'll see, Hitler as the last hope. Some of them I did not include will very literally show Hitler as a savior. It's almost Christ-like imagery, that he is the only one, the only strong man that can save Germany. They will appeal specifically to women voters. Women got the right to vote in Germany before women got the right to vote in America. So the Weimar Republic gives them the right to vote, and so Hitler will very much use this new electorate body to say, oh, you should vote for me for these reasons. Now, once he's in power, he's going to take away a lot of power from women, and certainly, remove them from professions and whatnot. But at this particular moment, he wants to appeal to them. And you can notice these images are a little softer, right? They're speaking directly to women. And I always like to point out that this is one of the few images of the family where you'll see the construction of it, the woman is at the top, right? Usually, you'll see here in just a second, it's usually the state, the man, woman, lots of kids. But in this one, it's directed at women. It's like, times are so bad, women, we're speaking to you. Students, another group they would specifically target. More workers. This one's a little bit interesting because this one is very specifically co-opting Christian imagery. Even if you can't read the title, which is over 300 National Socialists died for you, right? That's very Christian language, died for you. It's an exaggeration. That's speaking about the either people killed by communists or the failed beer hall putsch, but right, that imagery of Christianity definitely being co-opted here and would have resonated with the people at the time. A couple more showing Hitler as the strong man who can break the chains. These are from the presidential election. Here we have, this is an interesting one because this to us seems, as it should, creepy, right? Floating Hitler head. This would have been very modern and avant-garde at the time, what a trick of photography. So this is showing Hitler as this modern, relatively young man, because this comes from the presidential runoff where he was running against Hindenburg, who was in his late 80s. Yeah, he would have seemed very edgy here. Now, in reality, Hindenburg, will soundly win, but Hitler puts out his modern photography ads. He also flies all over Germany. He campaigns by plane. He will go to small towns that were usually ignored, and it made people feel remembered and seen. So even though he does this massive campaign, Hindenburg gives an address on the radio. It's not even a very good address, and he wins very soundly. So that puts Hindenburg in the presidential position. That's fine, because Hitler will later come back and be appointed chancellor by Hindenburg, which is exactly what happens. At the end of 32, this new election happens. The Nazis will win the Nazis will win 34% of the national vote. Now, in the July election of 32, they'd won 37%. So 37% is the highest percentage of the national vote the Nazis ever get in a free election. That goes down in the November election to 34. But we're still talking the 30s, and I think that's the really instructive message here, right? It doesn't take a majority to ruin a country. It's only 34 to 37%. They don't get a majority of the votes in the Reichstag, but they are the largest minority party, which means their candidate can be appointed chancellor. And so even though Hindenburg doesn't like Hitler, thinks he's too radical, thinks he will destroy the country, he's convinced that, he might become more moderate if he's in power. And there really isn't another option, right? He's put it off. He put it off in the July election, November. He has to be appointed. So in January of 33, Hitler is appointed chancellor. Once he does become chancellor, you'll see a lot of things happen very quickly. But they will start to re-envision Germany along racial lines. And they will do that by talking about this Volksgemeinschaft. So these are this racial community of the in-group. And if you look at this postcard, it looks very positive, right? If you didn't know this was coming from Nazi Germany, you would think, what a nice view of community. You've got people of all professions and ages, a lady with a baby, and what they're doing is they're donating money to a winter help relief fund. So they're giving money for poor people, right? People who need resources in the winter, that's what this fund is for. But of course, we know that it's only a very small sector of it's a specific sector of the society that they're speaking to. But this idea of feeling included is really key to them. And part of this makes sense if you think about 34 to 37% of the people voting for the platform. You've got a lot of the population out there that needs convincing. Certainly they are reworking Germany legally, so there's a lot of ways you kind of have to be on board. But then we'll see some of this propaganda aimed at people wanting to become involved. And so this is something they started every other Sunday. Rather than having like a big Sunday, meal after church, you would make a one-pot meal. Don't use meat. And the savings you used on that meal were supposed to, again, go to this winter help relief fund. So a good idea of community. Of course, only certain people are getting that benefit. Here's some more of this inclusive propaganda. This is from a campaign called Strength Through Joy, which made it possible for middle-class people to go on cruises and go traveling, even get a car, though no one actually ends up with a car, right? They started the program for the Volkswagen to be given to workers, and that never really pans out. But if you look at these images, they don't make you feel dark or scared, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to go through the woods, on a little walk, enjoying beautiful pastoral Germany. I'm going to go on a cruise. Isn't the government offering me nice things?
I think it's important to note that they're not even addressing who's excluded, right? They're speaking to people saying, this is what it means to be included, without even putting in their mind who's not there. That's a different set of propaganda.
So it'd be very easy if you are in this in-group to look at that and be like, oh, hey, that's me. This would be fun for me. They are big on family values, especially this traditional family unit in which you should be having the most children as possible if you are of the right racial makeup. So that's, again, key. We'll get to who's left out here. But again, you can see this image of family and the fact that marriage is for having children. So here's another propaganda cartoon, which is showing this unwanted baby and saying, so many marriages don't produce children, and here's this old bitter couple who doesn't have kids. So again, they're saying you really, in order to be a valuable citizen, you need to be reproducing for Germany. Now, who's excluded? We get, as they would term, their enemies within. First, we have biological enemies. So these would be people who they would deem as having a series of conditions, hereditary conditions, that would make them less strong, essentially. And so as early as July 1933, they start passing laws that essentially can forcibly sterilize people. If you don't have the right racial makeup, you can, in fact, be sterilized. And this image is showing how much the state spends on a healthy family versus one sick person. And so what we're supposed to infer is the sick just aren't worth spending money on. We need to have a strong, healthy people. Money should be put into them, not into those who need extra medical care. Here's another pro-sterilization poster as well. So this is something that will continue throughout the Nazi period. Eventually that will, in fact, escalate to a euthanasia program as well. They will target ideological enemies, the communists being the first ones. And so once the Nazis are in power, they will go after their political enemies. Their biggest political rival were the communists. So this shows a raid on the communist headquarters, and there'll be another election in March of 34 in which the Communist Party is outlawed. And then they will go after communist functionaries, put out these wanted posters for the leaders that they're looking for. Where will they go? Many of them will be sent to Dachau. So the first concentration camp that opens is Dachau. It opens in March. Very short time between Hitler being chancellor at the end of January and Dachau opening up as a place for political opponents to be sent. Then we get to some of the stuff that we're more familiar with, right? This is the negative propaganda that focus on the dangers, especially these are of Jews, and you can note the dehumanizing language, the imagery. One is in a Polish language poster that was later on in the war when they were into Poland. But the fact that people are now being talked about as vermin, as animals, is always something to keep in mind when that dehumanization is at play. This is a little bit earlier one from 1938, when there was an immigration crisis because of Kristallnacht and the anti-Jewish policies. So you can see at the top it says Germany for Germans, and that's showing Jews personified as rats, or rats personified as Jews, and they're being kicked out of Germany. But where will they go? And this is depicting, well, nobody else wants them either. A little bit earlier, you can see this was from a Nazi magazine talking about America for Americans and the problems that were happening in America because we were being more inclusive than they thought we should. Obviously, we were not being as inclusive as we should have been. Then we get to, again, some of their propaganda that focuses on this obsession about race. And these are all about race defilers, so the Jew as a race defiler. So they define Judaism as a race, not as a religious group or a cultural group, and they are put out a lot of propaganda saying that especially Jewish men are after Jewish women so that they can poison the blood of Germany. So these are all, some of them come from a book that was specifically directed at women and girls about the dangers of Jews. This is a contrast in body types. So when we think about, they're talking about like what the Aryan body is, how very different that is from the Jewish body. And then back to the same situation in terms of fear. These are graphic images also from the same book that was directed towards teens and women, saying that Jews are after, they're going to assault you, perhaps murder you. So again, quite graphic. And as we often see, if you're looking to stir up hate and fear of a group, saying they're after your women and children is sort of a tried and true one that we see happen time and time again throughout political regimes. This is about removing people that are deemed as harmful. So this is, you can see some of these people do have Jewish features. This is specifically about the Nazi takeover of Austria. And so being kicked out, there's a Jewish person, there's an aristocrat, there's a monk, there's an Austrian youth, and there's the man in the middle is supposed to be the former chancellor of Austria, and they're being chased out by the swastika. So this is just image to show you're not desirable. The political parties now need to get you out. Other fears of others in general. So obviously we know about their targeting the Jews, but this obsession with the racial state extends to others as well that they deem below them in the racial hierarchy. We can also see spectacles as propaganda. I think the book burnings are one of the more famous, and the Nuremberg rallies as well. But certainly when you think about why were they having these book burnings? It wasn't just to empty the libraries, right? They could have done that on their own, but the fact that they have them in public and at night, it's meant to be a spectacle. It's meant to impress people who are with them and to scare people who are against them. Again, just some of these images. And many people, again, even if you weren't for them, thousands and thousands of people did see this. And the statement was clear. These are works that are against the ideas and the makeup of Germany as the Nazis are now.
Another example of this, you've probably seen the sign of a man and a woman march through the street, and one sign stipulates that I can't remember, it was a German woman and a non-German, a Jewish man. And they were paraded through the streets and humiliated. So it's not just an inanimate object, right, that can be the subject of this public spectacle. They did it down on the human level. You don't want us to pull you out into the streets and humiliate you in this way.
And so lastly, if we think about what tools can we take into our own time, I think these are a good set of principles here. Thinking about what's accurate, inaccurate, taking the time to look that up. Who's benefiting from this, right? So it's like, there's always a simple solution that's involved, but who's the beneficiary? What's included? What are they not saying? So often propaganda relies on not what's explicitly there, but what we go ahead and fill in the blanks with. So of course, on the bottom one, you probably noticed this. I've seen this one. It's the Taylor Swift alleged endorsement of Donald Trump. It was an AI-generated image. She did not endorse him. He reposted it as though she had, which again brings us to this completely unprecedented territory of AI fakes, which makes it even harder for people to track down what's real, what's created, who did it, and some of these can be quite, really quite good. And we'll see at the very end why it's so important to be able to check that. The top image, some of you may have watched this political ad. It was during the primaries for one of the governor candidates in Missouri. And he was running on a very anti-immigration standpoint, deporting, immigrants that are here. And if you look at this image, you don't even have to hear it to see like this contrast that's being presented there. In the ad, if you didn't see it, he was giving a speech about deporting people, and then he had this man translating into Spanish, but it was, saying, I'm going to deport people, and then the translation would be like, ooh, the party's over, right? So it was a really racist ad that got a lot of media attention for how it was presented. So what can we do, right? I think investigating is the biggest thing. Find the source, where did it come from? Spend time on websites that actually do trace, propaganda and sourcing, and also take responsibility for what it is that you communicate. I think we're all probably guilty of seeing a post and being like, oh, I love that, right? Like, this encapsulates how I feel. And before we hit share or send it to our friends, take a minute to see wait a minute, who put that out? Is that current? Is it real? Tracing the source, really importantly. I think we all probably heard about eating the dogs, eating the cats from Springfield, Ohio. I don't know how many of you know the full backstory of this image, but the original picture came from Cleveland, Ohio, and a man took a picture and was like, well, this is weird, you don't see this every day. Then his own image that he posted got reposted out of context by a Facebook group, who then claimed that it was a Haitian immigrant who was going to eat this goose, and that in fact pets had been disappearing. That was then amplified by a white nationalist group called Blood Tribe. And that's when you really started seeing it blow up, was when this neo-Nazi group got behind it. And eventually that was reposted by J.D. Vance, and then we know it was mentioned in the presidential debate as well. So this is an important case of knowing where it starts. And if you trace it all the way back, of course it was unfounded, but a really interesting twist there with the neo-Nazi group. And finally, here we have media literacy, a lack of it causing unintended harm. This was a TikTok trend from 2020 that was very well-intentioned. There were, it was primarily teens and mostly teenage girls who were dressing up as Holocaust either victims or survivors, and again, in what they perceived to be a well-meant way to honor Holocaust survivors. In fact, they did something that was very disrespectful, right? So this is one of those things think about what it is you're doing, and even if you don't intend harm, harm can certainly come from that. And finally, it is so important that we do believe in truth, because post-truth is pre-fascism. When we live in a world of AI fakes, and just the knowing that this could be fake chips away at our ability to believe in the truth. And so we have to continue to believe in it, continue to do that hard work. Because if we just give up and be like, well, I don't know, we can't tell, then we've already ceded some of our power. So in our everyday lives, believe in truth, trace the source, talk to your friends about what the sources of the things that they're looking at. It's a small thing, but it has a huge ripple effect. And I think we can take questions.
All right, let's make sure all questions end in a question mark. So if you just want to make a comment, you can make it afterwards.
Hi, thank you both. I am just curious, I can't imagine what the past couple months or the past couple years have been like for you being experts in this kind of topic and seeing what's happening in our country. And I'm curious what you're doing or what you've been doing to get through the month, the week, the next week, and just kind of how you deal with that.
Well, that's a big topic. I've been doing this work for 21 years, and I can tell you there has not been a more difficult time to do it, right? What we do has always been relevant. It's never been more relevant. And I'm not talking about one thing. There are many things happening in our world. All of our elevated divisiveness, all of the wars happening around the world, all of the political issues happening around the world are kind of coalescing. And as professionals in this field, we find that we are very busy. And we take a lot of comfort in that, actually, because what that tells us is that Holocaust education has been effective, right? Nobody could be asking us questions, and that would be the worst case scenario. And instead what we see is a lot of outreach and a lot of requests for good information. So that's why we love coming to places like this, and even though it's a very difficult time to do our work, we are taking a lot of heart in those questions.
I would just add, so this quote here comes from a historian named Tim Snyder. One of his other points that he makes is be as courageous as you can, right? We all have different moments of privilege and power depending on the form that we have at the particular moment. And so I think that that's something that we both keep in mind, is trying to be as courageous as we can in every particular moment, and that's going to change. But in the moment, you do the best you can, and like Jessica said, being here is one of those really rewarding things to see all of you who are interested and active, and hopefully we'll continue the message.
Any other questions? Oh. Apparently there are some questions back here.
Do you have a favorite source you go to check on what you think could be propaganda or AI? I mean, there's so many things out there like Snopes, but who would be the primary one you might go to?
I often start with Snopes, and then depending on the particular example, it maybe varies from that. That's the big one that comes to mind in terms of just a catch-all for everything.
I think the other thing is that you want to triangulate your sources. Even if it's a source I trust, I don't only want to hear it from one source. I want to find corroboration from somewhere else. And that's one of the real difficulties. I mentioned the media environment we live in. So much is hitting us every day, right? It's not just our American issues, it's Ukraine, it's the Middle East, it's China. We are completely inundated. And so I think one of the things is that we do have to make some decisions about where we put our energy, right? You may have to choose a handful of issues that you're going to really dive into and understand, and accept that that means that you can't do fact-checking on every story that you see that day. But for my part, I want to see it in places that I deem to be reputable, but in multiple places.
And sometimes I found, as I was preparing this presentation and others, we all have our own algorithms that are tailored to us, right? So when I was looking for some, modern examples, I found it sometimes hard because my algorithm just doesn't give those to me, right? I had a really hard time getting down that rabbit hole. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well, how much our digital world is selecting stuff for us, and we have to try really hard to break out of that and to, as Jessica said, triangulate and fact check.
So I have a question with regard to the way you suggest we deal with the propaganda right now, based on, of course, what happened in Germany. Your suggestion is to dive into the information pool and find out whether it's true or not. Now, you know very well that we're not going to do that, and this is the problem.
We'll go.
Right. So what is the simpler way to deal with the really baseless propaganda you get from one side of the political spectrum?
If diving down and getting the information isn't your jam, what you can do is walk away from red flags. If it at least sets off something in your mind that, whoa, I don't know, you can step away from that, right? It's not an ideal solution, but it's something, right? What can you do on any given day? We're all making these decisions, and some days we're going to have more capacity than others.
Or like you said, pick your issue. If there's like one thing that you want to be really educated on, and like this is the thing where I'm going to take on my friends and neighbors and Uncle Ted at Thanksgiving, right? Then make that your one issue that you do. But I think that's, it's a good question, because we do have to be realistic about what each of us can do. And that does change day to day and person to person.
I think that's all we have time for now. You'll be around afterwards if they want to ask some questions. You'll be available. Thank you so much for sharing with us. All right, I'm not feeling any better right now, but I'm going to try to hang in there a couple more days. Let's give it questions. While our musician comes up, for one last song, we wanted to remind everybody that Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and volunteers. If you like the topic and the music today, please consider donating through Kansas City Oasis/donate or by Venmo. If you didn't like the topic or anything, you can still donate through kansascityoasis.org. Reoccurring monthly donations are the most helpful. And now, back to David Luther. Take it away.
The dream has changed. You're older. It's strange how you're driven from your morning rest. And the ground, it shakes. It takes all your strength just to keep your heart inside your chest. So wake your lover, shake your head, it's time. Kiss your mother and break your bed, it's time. Whoa, whoa, can you lose yourself in the lights? Let your heart be loved, the mercy lifts you up. Whoa, let the sadness subside. Let the scales fall from your eyes. Let what is right be right. It's time to go. The only way you know is no longer a blind romance. And the tide has burned, the tables are learned, and you'll never get another chance. So wake your lover, shake your head, it's time. Kiss your mother and break your bed, it's time. Whoa, whoa, can you yourself the lights? Let your heart be loved, the mercy lifts you up. Whoa, whoa, let the sadness subside. Let the scales fall from your eyes. Let what is right be right. Can you lose yourself in the lights? Let your heart be loved, the mercy lifts you up. Whoa, whoa, let the sadness subside. Let the scales fall from your eyes. Let what is right be right. Whoa, whoa, can you lose yourself in the light? just to lift you up. Whoa, whoa, let the sadness subside. Let the scales fall from your eyes. Let what is right be right.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. You can join us for lunch after Oasis. We'll be at Tanner's, just right around the corner at 3900 Rainbow Boulevard. Please, before you head to lunch, take a few minutes to help clean up. There are many volunteer opportunities for Oasis each week. Check descriptions attached to the private page to sign up. And that's our program for today. Reminder, next week's program will go longer until 1 p.m. We want to thank, again, this week's presenters, Jessica, Shelly, and Al, and the musician, David Luther. And thank you for being here or tuning in online. Next week's featured speaker, Next week's featured speaker will be David Fitzgerald, Playing God and Evolutionary History of World Religion. The music guest will be Ernest James Zydeco Trio. And, okay, now I think it's done.